Alright, here is a short video about how to use some basic features of Logger Pro. First, you open it through the magnifying glass in the upper corner and type Logger, and it should be the only thing there. There it is, Application Logger Pro. And a window comes up that looks like this. It has some nifty things, and the graph data goes on the left, the graph itself goes on the right. You should label your graph. So if you double click or right click on the X area, you get the column options. I can type a name for it. If your name is, I like to type it in both as long as it's not too long. And the units will be seconds. And then I can be done. There it is, the day or the time and the units. And the time and the units appear on the graph itself too. I do the same for the y-axis, so maybe this is temperature. I'll give it a short name of temp, and the units will be, I want the degree symbol, so I have some cool options there, degrees Celsius. And I have some options that you can experiment with. I'll click done. So now I have created an x-axis time, y-axis temperature graph, and I have no data. I can enter the data manually if I took it one at a time, so maybe 0, 70, and tabbing around works pretty well. 65 to 60, or you can hit enter and it zigzags around, placing dots on the screen, as you can see here, one at a time. We will take sometimes the data through a temperature probe, which will fill this data automatically. But for manual data, this works fine. Now I have a graph, and I can want to do some things with the graph. So what I can do is add, I always must add a title to the graph. You can do that by right-clicking, graph options here, or the graph options come up if you double-click. There's graph options, and here's the spot for title. So I'll give it a temperature versus time as the title. There are some things here you can play around with. Point symbols are the little circles that we have around the data points. Many times we just want a scatter plot like this. If you wanted to connect the dots, you could click that, and I'd have to click OK, and then it would just connect them. That's not the best way usually. You can experiment with those. Another thing you might explore is in the same window here, the axis options. You can change the label. I would usually leave it to match my data table, but you could change it. And then you can change the scaling. I like the option auto scale from 0 for the y-axis and auto scale from 0 for the x-axis. And that scales it so that both of them, it does it a little awkwardly in that it puts the data points right in the corners and right on the edge, but that's okay. What we want to do next is maybe do a best fit line. There are some symbols up here. This one is the linear fit. This one is a curve if you wanted a parabola or a sine wave or something. Some of these other ones are calculus functions. Or you can do it by the menu bar at the top, analyze linear fit. And there it is. You get the formula, the slope, the intercept, and you can drag that so it's in a position that you enjoy. And you've created a lovely graph with the correct labels, which you always need, a title, and a data with that kind of point protectors, which is always nice for a teacher. This should get you going. You can click on a lot of the other things to see what some of your other options are, but this is a good basic start.